Hi, I'm Tom Lokes, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media Coordinator for the City of Wisconsin Rapids. And I want to thank you for joining me on my show, Making Connections, and my guest, Misty Urban.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. All the way from Iowa, and you're going to get to learn a lot about her. She's born and raised right here in Wisconsin Rapids, and she's visiting family. So I'm going to have her introduce herself here. And again, I'm doing all the switching and interviewing at once, so we'll do the best we can with that and get your story. And I'm glad you became a guest on my show, and I'm sure a lot of people out here will know you, 93 grad.
Maybe.
But I'm not going to say everything. I'm going to let you do that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, your family, and go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate you having me here. I, as you said, born and raised in Wisconsin Rapids, little town of Kellner, actually, right outside of Rapids. Roy and Mary Urban. They have lived in the same house for most of my life, and then they built a new house next door and sold that house to my brother. So my brother lives right next door now, so I come up a lot to visit. And I recently have a book out that it's my second book of short stories, and I was on TV in the Quad Cities recently. I live in Muscatine, Iowa now, and my mom got really excited, and she said, you should be on TV here. So she called you immediately, and that's how I ended up
Yeah, that was neat. And,
talking about my book.
You know, that's really what I want. I want people like you or your parents or anybody to really call and get someone in here, because I'm not going to know everybody in this community.
Right.
I know a lot, but I don't know if I know your mom or your dad, and maybe I would if I recognize them when I'm out in the community. But
You might know
well,
them
good.
on the
I'm gonna, so. You said you were born and raised here. Let's kind of go through some of that progression. You left probably for career purposes and maybe family.
I did.
And let's talk about that before we kind of go into the book and how your high school career, did it get you into this a little bit and wanting to write? What's the love of the book and the writing? And
where did the writing come from?
Yeah.
Right.
So go ahead. You can start way back or wherever you like about your life progression to get you almost right here, and then we'll talk about
Well, the family lore has it that I started writing stories when I was 5. I learned to read early thanks to my mom, and my sister was a year and a half younger, so apparently I was writing stories for her to help her learn to read. This would make her 3 and a half, so clearly a child prodigy, my sister.
Wow.
But she had me to help her. I presume it, was about cats sitting on mats, wearing hats, and that sort of thing. It wasn't very sophisticated. I remember starting my own newspaper in elementary school. I went to grant school, and something there inspired me to start the Urban Star. So I had a typewriter, and I would type reports about what we had for dinner and what the animals were doing. Yeah, I was a budding journalist at that age.
And what age do you think that was about?
I think it was probably 4th grade.
Yeah, so...
It wasn't a terribly long-running
do you have any
publication. I wish I did.
Oh,
I wish I did. I have a couple of them tucked away, I think, in a big box at my house, which is hours away in Muscatine. Or I would have brought it. Yeah. I actually have my first story rejection. My mom found this recently.
Oh, yeah?
This was 2nd grade, and I submitted a story to a contest for Cricket magazine. I think it was probably part of the highlights.
Wow.
Family, and it gave very nice rejection on some technical word count thing, I think. So I don't know if they actually read it and recognized my young, stellar talent.
Oh, that's great.
They turned me down flat, so I started gathering rejections early, which you need when you're a writer. You need to be able to handle rejection.
Definitely.
I'm told.
So writing at that early of an age, it's a passion for you?
It was what I loved,
and
yes.
So we get a little older and we're going into junior high and things may be changing a little bit, but you're still hooked to the writing?
I wrote all the time. I wrote choose your own adventure stories for my friends when I was done with my homework. I remember sitting in class and I would have the book in front of me. I apologize to all of my teachers. I loved you all. You were wonderful influences. And when I had my book in front of me, I was writing stories. They probably knew this. Teachers know when you're not paying attention.
Oh, yeah.
And my friends and I would swap these notebooks. I had a couple going on with a couple friends, and so we'd write stories for each other. And I have just stacks this high of these notebooks somewhere, and they all got water damage.
Oh, no.
When I lived in Ithaca, my basement flooded, and that's where I had them. So I'm afraid to look at them now, but I still own them, and they will probably be buried with me. I'm going to need a very large coffin for my juvenilia.
Well, it's neat to keep all that stuff. That's memories.
It's fun, and my friends will say now, when I say, I published a book, and they say, don't you remember 7th grade? That's all you talked about was wanting to be a writer. And I thought, that's true.
Wow.
That was all I ever wanted.
Neat.
And I went into business. I got a degree in business management at Whitewater.
Yep, you
after
did
school,
Whitewater.
because
Yep.
you have to have a day job. You can't make a living writing.
No, it's a lot in any art.
In any art, no. Artists starve. Business
Yes,
people
they
make
do.
money.
It's a passion, but you starve. Been
I
there.
would work all day. I'd put in my work. I was a management consultant. I got hired for that out of college. And I would go home to my rented apartment and write stories. And then I thought I had missed the creative writing work I did in college.
Mhm.
And so I started taking creative writing classes after school as a kind of continuing student. And that ended up in me getting a master's degree, and then a MFA, and then a PhD, and then going into academia.
Wow.
Because that's what you do when you get a PhD.
Wow,
in
so you
literature.
already have your doctors.
Yes, I have a doctorate in Old and Middle English literature from Cornell University.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, yes.
Old and English literature. That
Old
helps
and
you,
Middle English
and that helps you
literature.
write.
Well, you know, my other half of my brain is, and has been for a long time, medieval scholarship.
Okay.
So these are two of the books I've published. The two other books I've published, one was my dissertation on, wait for this, monstrous women in Middle English romance. As you can imagine, that was a huge bestseller. Everybody wants to read about monstrous women in Middle English romance, hands down. And then my second medieval book is an edited collection. Another friend and I who was interested in monstrous women found a third colleague, academic colleague, who was interested in monstrous women. So we edited a collection of essays about the medieval fairy Melusine, who is half fairy, half human, and then turns into a snake woman from the waist down one day a week. It's a very exciting, it was a hugely popular legend in the Middle Ages.
Wow, you have to be very creative to write books and be able to want to read those too. So
Well, you know,
it's all part of it.
I wasn't very good at business. I could do it. I clocked the hours, but
Yeah.
it wasn't where my heart was.
Yeah, they always say the artist and the business owner it doesn't work so well sometimes.
You know, I've seen some people do it
Yeah.
really well.
It's tough. I did it in photography, and I couldn't sell my photos. I give them all away.
The marketing is really hard.
Yeah, that's hard. So, all right. Well, if you're just joining us here on Making Connections, I'm Tom Laux, and this is Misty Urban. She's from Wisconsin Rapids and left about 93. And we're going to get right into these books that she has. She's published several of them here, I think.
Yes.
And we're going to go into one of her first ones, and she's going to pick the one she wants to talk about first. It can be the first one, second one, or maybe it's not.
We'll start with
And
the first
yeah,
one.
well, I want to know more because this is how you got into this, what the book is about a little bit, and when it was when you started working on this particular one. And this is something that you went all the way through, right? Is it you had to get the publishing? Did you have to do all the work?
This, I'm happy to say, is a book that, about the easiest way possible, I think, to publish a book is to win a contest. You pay a little money to submit your manuscript, which I did. This publisher, Snake Nation Press, it's a very small publisher in Valdosta, Georgia. Like a lot of small independent literary associations, they have a contest every year. And I had a collection of short stories. Some of them I'd worked on at my master's program at Florida State University, and some of them I'd worked on during my MFA program at Cornell University, and I was working on them while I was an assistant professor of English, actually, at a small college in Idaho, Lewis Clark State College in Idaho, for 4 years after I got my PhD. So I was continuing to polish the book, and when my husband and I left Idaho and moved to Illinois, I had some time on my hands because I wasn't teaching at the time. So I put my stories together in a collection, and I sent it to a couple contests, and it won.
Oh.
So I got a very lovely call that said, your book was picked by a judge. We want to publish it. We'll pay you a little bit of money, and we'll send you proofs. So here you go. So I have a box of books with my name on it, and I get to say that it was winner of the Serena McDonald Kennedy Award, because it was. And this came out in 2016, 2 years ago, my first book.
Oh, your first
short
book.
Stories.
And really, it's a childhood dream to do this.
It absolutely was. This is my dream come true.
Wow. So, when you got the news, who did you tell right away?
I was in the car. We were camping. It was 4th of July weekend. We were camping and out of cell phone service. And so my husband was driving, so I leaned over, and I think he still has the marks from my fingernails digging in, because I was so excited and I couldn't scream. I would alarm the children in the back, and of course he was driving, but Told him right away.
And pretty excited, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was. He knew it was a dream. He'd been very supportive of my writing from the beginning.
Right. Sounds like you really went through a lot of schooling. So you were in Florida. Mm-hmm. You were in Idaho, you said too?
Yeah, I taught
you were just all over the place.
We moved around a lot.
Yeah, you moved around a lot. And then, and now, before we go into another book of yours, and this was 2016.
2016.
And you're a teacher.
I am a teacher.
And what do you teach? What class? What grade?
I'm a college teacher.
Oh.
College professor.
Okay, so you're...
Yeah, the big kids.
Yeah, that professor. Wow, I must have... I missed that one from your mom and dad.
I don't know why they don't brag about it all the time.
They said you're a teacher, but we consider our professors. Yeah, definitely.
College professor.
I just haven't been in college in 23 years.
Why?
Graduated in the 90s.
Would you want to go back? Unless
my master's
writing,
would be something in communications,
Mm-hmm.
because now I do a lot of writing is just everything here.
Mm-hmm.
I write a lot. I write for the mayor, write for the city, and do this. Communications is multi-communications, but I have a mass comm degree, so I'm always writing. But you can always learn more.
That's true.
Yeah. So you're a professor in, now again you said.
Right now I teach at Muscatine Community College.
Okay.
In Iowa.
Okay. Is there a certain set of classes that you have to do?
Right now I'm just an adjunct, so I mostly teach composition.
Neat.
I'd love to teach some more literature and
other
classes there.
I have
opportunity.
kind of a mentor friend that is English, I think major or even, I don't know if he has, I know he has his, not major, but his master's in English. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
So he was going to that when I was working here in Winona State. So, yeah. And I had a chance to be, I could be an adjunct as well at Winona State, but for me to drive back once a week for that semester on a Monday night for a 4-hour class was just a little overwhelming right now.
It's hard.
Someday I might do it, but not right yet. But yeah, I want to do it. I want to teach you in photography.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, in my
it's
hometown.
Fun.
Yeah, so I think teaching is, I do it all the time here. So you guys are watching, or you have grandsons, granddaughters, or even daughters, please, if they want to get into all this public speaking, we provide all that. It's a learning. You can do what I'm doing. I could have had somebody here in my place interviewing you, Misty. So, and it'd be really neat to have a kid do that from like the high school.
Yes.
And because I've already done it, this is a learning experience. So please, if you guys are watching, we're hoping to, I'm working with Carly. Her last name isn't Hoyer anymore. I can't remember what it is. But we're going to hopefully get their volunteer center and their career center, what they call it now, of kids over here to do some of that.
Good.
That's what it's about.
It's an excellent profession.
Yeah, and this, even if you don't want to get a video, it helps in interviewing. We all have to interview for jobs. So, well, let's go on to another book. 2016 was the first book. Let's go on to the next one. Looks like you have 3 already.
Well, this is the second collection of mine that's just coming out. In fact, it goes live online the 1st of November.
We have a sneak peek.
You get a sneak peek. I have some advanced copies here. I love this cover. I am just so thrilled with this cover. The publisher is a small independent publisher in Davenport in the Quad Cities area. It's founded and run by Lauren Wood, and she gets to choose what she wants to publish. She's eclectic, she's picky. She likes to feature, I think, individual and unique voices, so I was really excited when she liked my book of short stories and wanted to publish it. So she's done all the hard work. I correct some proofs, and now that I have it in my hands, my job is to tell everybody about it and tell their friends to buy it. This is some stories that I wrote back in my school days, my master's days. I think there's one of them that dates back there. There's one, the novella, that's longer, that dates to Cornell. There's a story I wrote in Rome one summer while I was in the creative writing program in Cornell over in Rome one summer, and George Bush visited at the time. And there were riots protesting the war, and I was, as a writer, trying to imagine how does, I couldn't really get inside the then president's head. And I thought, what does it feel like to come to a country where you're met with such hostility? So I wrote a story from the president's point of view as an exercise in empathy. And I had a great time with it. and I liked the story, so I included that here. And ultimately, the collection is mostly, aside from the then president, former president, highly fictionalized. I took great liberties.
Mm-hmm.
They're mostly about women, old women, young women, married women, single women, trying to figure out what it is they most need to get by and be happy. And sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes they're right. And sometimes they have a very hard journey to find it.
Okay, so there's more than one, there's several stories in here.
13 stories.
13 stories
Mm-hmm. Some of
that
them
are kind of around that theme.
fairly fresh,
Right.
yeah. Some of them is really recent work that I wrote actually since I moved to Muscatine, and so it just, the collection kind of came
Sure.
together as a unique blend.
But it's fictional.
All fiction.
And what when you're writing these, I guess how does this idea come about? Where's that happen?
Where does it come?
Where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
Because it's from you. It's your personality in the book, right? You're writing.
It's my voice.
You're
It's
real,
all
yeah. So how does
coming
that?
from my
How does
head.
that happen? Why?
You know,
What's making you think this? Maybe we don't know.
I think there are some people, right, they turn out to be writers, who just see stories everywhere. I've noticed sometimes when I'll be hanging out with friends and
Mm-hmm.
I'll be observing people and imagining stories for them. And my friends who aren't writers will say, that's really kind of rude and invasive that you're appropriating their lives and imagining
Right.
these horrible, tragic things, because as a fiction writer, you want to have tension and conflict to drive the story. Most of my stories just come from a character who has a problem,
Okay,
or
but
a character in a situation that they have to solve.
Sure, but it could be a real problem. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it takes another path.
Mm-hmm.
Could be more. Has some suspense to it, right?
Sometimes these are literary short fictions, so most of them are what we.
How many pages? Like 8, 10, 15
Oh, that's
pages?
a good question. So there are some real short stories in here that are a page and a half, flash fiction, which is something I just started writing very recently. There are some what we would call more traditional stories, about 4,000, 6,000 words, and that comes out to, I don't know, about 10, maybe 12 pages. And then the novella is actually, let's take a look at the table of contents. The novella is a good third of the book. It starts at page 89. So a good chunk of the book is that longer story.
So is this kind of writing geared more for a younger generation now? Or has it always gone on?
That's interesting. There's always been flash fiction, but it's really making a comeback now as more and more things go digital, more things are online, people have shorter and shorter chunks of time. It's harder to sit down with a novel. So, there was a resurgence of the short story, saying, well, people have time to sit and read a story. And now there's the really short story. And writers like to challenge each other. Well, how short can you go and still have a story? Write a story in 150 words. Write a story in 6 words. There's a lot of ways you can play with the form.
6 words?
6-word stories. It's a thing. It's a website.
That's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that book here is not out yet, but will be.
Will be soon.
Somebody wants to get it. How do they do this? They don't call you. Can they search on Amazon?
They certainly can. They can go to my website,
Okay,
mistyurban.net. I sell autographed copies there, but my publisher will have it through most of the major online distributors, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. And what we're hoping to do is get it with a distributor who can carry it to everybody's favorite independent bookstore. You can go ask for The Necessaries by Misty Urban, and they can special order it for you if they don't already have it in stock. But they should have it in stock, right?
You bet. So you're from Rapids. Do you think is there, the book world, right? It's now gone as you probably came and it's no longer here.
They had a Lesson in Manners. They were selling it for me, and now I can't go ask them to carry The Necessaries.
Any libraries? No?
Macmillan's going to have that copy.
Okay.
A few minutes after we're done talking.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there you go.
You can read a copy at Macmillan.
Read a copy at Macmillan Memorial Library.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and check it. Can you check it out then as well? Or?
Should be. It will probably take a while for them to process and get it into their collection, get a catalog.
But go to your website. What's that again?
mistyurban.net.
That's easy. That's why you should just be able to go to it, and you'll get a signed.
Could get a signed copy from me.
Copy.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you have a third book here. I want to know a little bit about that as well.
When we moved to Muscatine, I was looking for a writers group.
Okay.
Writers need community. It's a complete myth that we write alone. We do write alone, but we need readers who can tell us how bad something is or if there's any promise in it. So I looked for a group of writers, and I found Writers on the Avenue. It's a writing group that started in Muscatine back in 1989. And I joined them fairly quickly after I arrived. And they've been wonderful. They've been really supportive. They have endorsed my crazy ideas, some of which were, hey, let's make our own anthologies and print them as books. So these are books that I've made, and I'm really excited at my foray into publishing. I used Amazon's, what was then CreateSpace, to make the book, and we did calls for submissions. We did a holiday-themed anthology the first year I did it. We did an inspirational anthology last year. I wish I had copies of those to show you, but they've sold well, actually. This is our fundraiser for our group. We're a literary nonprofit. And the latest one we did is a book of poetry, and I'm especially proud of this one because my daughter won second place in the poetry contest youth category.
So
my daughter is published at 7, where I was rejected at 7. My daughter is already published.
That's second or third grade?
Second grade.
Second grade.
It's a poem she wrote in first grade.
Wow, published already.
Published already.
Her
I'm not jealous.
Must like, wow.
She took the book in for show and tell, and I was really excited. So anybody who wants to, buy a Writers on the Avenue book, those are available online as well.
Online as well. But the only one that's going to be in Macmillan will be the latest one?
I think Macmillan has a lesson in manners, too.
Okay.
Or I hope they do, because I donated a copy. I felt that as a native, it might be fun to just have a copy in the library that I loved and grew up in.
Well, you went on TV. That's kind of how you're from in the Quad Cities?
I was on Paula Sands. Yeah.
Was it like a CBS, NBC for a few, like 10 minutes, or more like what we do?
It was a live show, and it was a very short segment, and we were talking about the arts scene in the Quad Cities, and I was there on behalf of my publisher. The publisher of this book is Paradisiac Publishing, and Paradisiac is also starting they're calling it the Gold Coast Almanac. It's kind of a newsletter. It's more of a monthly magazine that collects happenings in the Quad Cities, arts, theater, comedy, literary readings, that sort of thing. So I kind of went to plug my book and plug Paradisiac Publishing, but we ended up talking mostly about the Midwest Writing Center, which is a great writing resource in the Quad Cities.
What's your next project? Do you have something in mind, or is it always going? Do you want to?
There's always projects.
There's always projects, right?
I just finished a historical novel.
Oh.
Everybody's asked me, you write historical fiction, right? Medieval scholar fiction, and I haven't published any historical fiction, but I just finished the novel. I'm going to try to go the traditional route and see if an agent likes it and can sell it to one of the New York publishers. That doesn't happen, I'll probably find a smaller publisher and see if they like it.
Is there a lot of money in it? If you could, are you looking at that? I know it's a passion, but money we have to live, to buy food, have family.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's definitely. Is that like a full-time goal of yours down the road?
It would be lovely to be able to support my family on just my fiction, just writing books. That would be fabulous. I would not turn that down if somebody offered me that position. A lot of writers will teach on the side. They'll teach through an institution. They'll teach through another workshop, sometimes MFA programs. It's a way to earn money. A lot of writers do editing. I do editing, freelance editing I did for a local paper for a while. Other people send me their books, and I tell them what I think. And
sure.
That's it. It's a good salary. People can make livings at that. So you're doing your writing, and you're helping other writers. And
so you get in other kinds of writings. You say you were an editor.
An editor.
What kind of writing do you edit? Is it newspapers, books, or?
Most of it is books. I do some fiction, but actually I do a lot more memoir and nonfiction now.
Okay.
And then my other gig is a book reviewer. So I read books and get paid to tell people what I think of them. How do you beat that?
No, and you love to read, right?
Right. Yeah. No, don't send me more books, please. No, don't send me books for free.
Do you have a library in your home that's like a whole wall?
I have several bookshelves, yes. In fact, when we moved, and this was just from Ithaca, before I combined my book collection with my husband's, half of the moving truck was books, and the rest was furniture.
Is he a reader?
No, not a big reader. He reads well, he understands it.
But he's not the same.
He's not a literary, he's an outdoors science.
Opposites attract, right?
Yes, absolutely. I married him so he could get me outside.
Yep.
And he married me, I think, so I could edit his emails.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, especially if you went camping, and you're camping, you're outdoors, and you found out at a camping trip on over the July holiday a few years ago. So you're really progressed a lot in the last several years, 2 years. It's only 2018, and you're young, and you have a lot of time yet to really hit it off and make
I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, everybody who writes hopes that their words reach somebody, that they matter, that somebody says, I felt that way, or I never imagined that, that's amazing, that you just sort of connect, or you add to somebody else's world, or let somebody in your world. So,
is there any visuals in any of these books, or is it all written?
It's all written word, although my first publisher said, do you have any stories or any pictures that would go with this? And I couldn't find it, sadly, which is when I wished I were an artist.
Right, and see, I come from the visual end because of photographer, videography, and well, I have to do the words now too, but still, my strength is always going to be in the visual.
We should publish books together.
There you go. Give you some images. Yeah, it'd be, you live in a river town as well, right?
I do.
And I come from the river town, but you could do something on the river here. Wouldn't that be neat? History of the Wisconsin Rapids River.
It's a fantastic.
That would be really neat, and I'm sure it's kind of been done, but maybe not in this kind of.
Back when it was consolidated, I feel like my dad was helping or somehow involved with history. It might have been just of consolidated, but he was doing some sort of research, so I think I get the writing maybe from both my parents. I'll ask him about it. Maybe he can find that and we can spruce that up.
That would be neat, why not? And we could, people need to know that history is very important. You don't want to forget about that, otherwise we all repeat history. Everything seems to come back as we get older. We notice that more. I think we've been there, just a little bit of different flair.
Feel like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So, is there anything else you want to bring up? I just find it very interesting, very intriguing. I hope you guys do as our audience. We have a publisher here that was born and raised right here in Rapids, doesn't live here anymore, but comes back a few times a year, right?
Yeah, strong ties.
Yeah, and come back. But these books are available, here to just check out or buy them online and give it as a gift, right?
Books make great gifts.
They make great gifts, and
they're available in ebook also.
Ebook,
so digital and print.
And that's the question I was going to ask you. What do you like better, print or digital, when you read?
I like to pull out the medievalist card there and say, well, I'm a medievalist, so print was a revolution for us. That's not true. A lot of medieval scholars are very fluent with digital technology and are very good at it. And in fact, a lot of medieval scholarship was kind of on the cutting edge of digital technologies. And I have a tablet and I read on it, and it's very good for flying on planes because then you don't have to pack the 7 books. You pack the tablet.
7 books.
But I really prefer hard copy. I love the smell. I love the feel of the printed books. I love that I can see it on my shelf, and it's just, all of those books I have in my house, I feel like are, this is going to sound strange, companions in a way. Like there's this quiet conversation that's going on all the time over in the fiction corner, and the medieval scholarship corner, and the memoir corner, and I just love that feeling of being surrounded by ideas. When you close the tablet, you don't have that.
No, not at all. But I see that you're able to use your 5 senses. That's very important in your writing. I can just see it, and I get that from being a photographer. And when you do stories and real hard stories as a photographer, which I used to do, and get into their lives and tell that story, you become part of their family, but as a fly on the wall. And it's almost the same as I think in a writer here, that you're saying you like to feel that, but that's going to be in your writing, right? Yeah. See, I always liked being a colorful writer. It's hard to do that as a news writer,
right?
But a colorful writer is great because then you can describe. If it's not there, it's red or it's bright violet, or something like that. So yeah, it makes it's great. So
that's my one tip to younger writers, apprentice writers, anybody working on your book. a lot of descriptive writing. Use all of your senses. It's the way that your writing pops. It gets your reader interested. It gets them in the line, in the image, and then in the character, and then in the story.
Exactly. That's the way I learned as a photographer from some of the really high-end photographers. Eddie Adams' workshop at Barnstorm way back in the early 90s.
Oh,
we
wow.
learned all this. He was a great photographer. He's now passed away. And tell you about all that kind of stuff and how you learn that. And it comes even in the news end of photography is how's that image tell that story?
The story,
right?
absolutely.
Without the words.
How do you frame it?
How do you frame it? And it all that makes a big difference, not just a snapshot. And but I think it helps as a reader or someone visualizing. You're able to interpret it that way. The reader too. But yeah, there was some really neat stuff on that, and I'm glad you really shared the books. And
happy to.
And I want people to pick them up. And
I want people to enjoy them.
Yeah.
I had a cousin who was reading this one for me, an advanced review copy, and she wrote me and said, "I missed 4 bus stops because of your story." And I said, "That's the best thing you could have possibly told me as an author. It's exactly what I want to hear. It takes you away from your life for a while."
You're right. Now, have you had a chance to maybe share it with the local newspapers here? The City Times is relatively new, or
I want to.
Okay.
In fact, my publisher is working on a press release.
Great.
So as soon as it goes live, we'll probably send that out to all of my former and current local papers.
Yeah, and you know, you went to Lincoln, is that right?
I did.
So any professors, teachers, are they still there? And some of them a lot of them are probably retiring by now.
Yeah, my favorites are gone.
Okay.
Audrey Scheid is retired now.
Okay.
She was a huge and wonderful influence on me. Her AP English class. I knew I loved literature, but after that class, I knew I loved literature, and that was going to be in my life. She was just wonderful, supportive, imaginative. Mr. Sommer, my AP history, wow, he was great. I think he's the man who taught me critical thinking, and I use that all the time in my teaching and my work. Shouts out to Mr. Sommer. And Miss Scheid, I miss you.
Yeah.
I had wonderful teachers.
That sounds great.
All of my teachers were fantastic.
That's how it starts. I had mentors in mine, and then outside in the field as well, in my field. So great. Hopefully that some of the teachers maybe you can meet, or some of your past colleagues you get to meet. I don't know. There is reunions coming up.
Yeah, I missed their reunion last spring.
That would have been 20?
No, it was. Was it
no.
25th?
Maybe 25.
It was kind of anticipating the 25th.
Because I'm past my 25 now. I just dated myself.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm past it. We're going on 30 coming up.
Well, 93 was the best class that came out of LHS. I got.
Was it 90? And I came from Winona, so I'm not from here.
Winona's fine. Winona
so.
State is a good school.
Yeah, Winona State was great. But I had a chance to stay at home and do school, but I worked full time.
Yeah.
And I worked at a newspaper full time while going to school full time. We owned an auto supply, did that. I worked. That's why you see me down here all the time. If anybody knows, I'm a 90-hour a week work, but I do have family time. It's very important. So no worries there. I make that happen too. I just don't sleep.
Right. Something has to go. Right?
Somebody's got to stay up. But oh, great. Anything else that we want to share that you're here, just here for the weekend?
I love being back in Rapids. I love this town. It's dear to my heart.
You know,
very fond of the people.
A lot of people love it, and it's changed though. As you can see,
it has.
You came back. When's the last time you visited? Over the summer?
Yeah, August. Kellner Corn Days.
Okay.
Came for the parade.
Neat. So you noticed that right next to us, there's no building over there.
No building anymore.
That was here when they were taking it apart probably, and now our mall. That'll be next time you come down. That could be mostly gone.
You know, I spent a lot of hours in that mall.
Yeah.
Just walking.
I remember getting my ring there.
Really?
Before we got married in 95. 94. 95. My wife got a job here at the Daily Tribune. That's how we came here originally.
The
Tribune. She was a photographer there. So, but yeah,
definitely.
bought the ring right here at in one of the jewelry stores here. It's still on. It doesn't fit very well. But Yeah.
Well, the hope is always that even as things change, there's still progress and hope and good things happening.
I think so. There's a lot of change. You can see the riverbank as well. That's all different. It's kind of neat to go back and say, wow, what's going on? I do that in my own hometown.
It's a weird overlay.
It
This
is.
the past, this is the now.
Yeah. But your home now is back right now in Iowa, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's funny, when I moved there, people were trying to kind of sell me on Muscatine, and so many things it has in common with Rapids. I'm like, I grew up in a mill town, on a river, in the Midwest, surrounded by cornfield. This is very familiar. It's almost the same size even.
Yeah, a river is very important. I grew up on a river here too. And now you said mill. Is there a paper mill in that area?
There are a couple of big industries in Muscatine, grain processing, Kent Corporation, formerly Monsanto, now I believe Bayer. Stanley Consultants, an internationally known consultant firm, is based in Muscatine. There's a lot going on in that little town.
Yeah.
And Mark Twain lived there for a couple of months, so we get a lot of mileage out of that. Mark Twain was
And you're not too far away. You're not like you're in Florida or Idaho.
No.
And you said you have one brother?
I have a brother who lives here.
Okay. All right. So you get to see him?
His family's in town, yes. His adorable children.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yep. And get out there and look for the book. You can go to mistyurban.net.
Buy books, read books, support books, support journalism.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a journalist. Love it.
We need it.
Yep. So she's going to continue writing, and we'll probably invite her back down a few years from now when she's a millionaire.
Yes. Yes.
Let's hope.
I'll be here for free.
I think that would be neat, and maybe we could raise some money that way for a nonprofit or something.
If I'm making millions off my books, I should be giving back to my hometown.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, and get out there and get that book. But you can go to the Macmillan Library and look up one of the other ones that have been out published since 2016 that we went over. I guess.
Any manner.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you just hold that up here real quick, and just I'm gonna zoom in, hold it up a little higher.
Higher.
Yep, and I'm gonna go to that. There we go.
There
you guys
go.
Take a look and see that. All right, and it's back to me.
Yay.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us here on Making Connections. I'm Tom Laux, the host and the coordinator for the City of Wisconsin Rapids. You'll see this program air on our cable station, Solaris Channel 3, as well as Charter Channel 985 in its standard definition. And that will play throughout the month of November is our plan, and maybe even some in December, off and on throughout the schedule. So please just watch your program guides. You can get them on the website at wr-cm.org, and our schedules there are use your remote, because we're on the guide, and Charter goes all the way up to Rhinelander, you name it. Solaris is in this area here, all the way to Grand Rapids and stuff. So tune in. We're streaming, and this will be on Facebook and YouTube. Please share it with all of your friends, and it'll definitely help Misty out. And, and again, thank you for coming, and I thank your parents for letting me know, otherwise I wouldn't have known. And don't be afraid. Parents out there, please, if you have kids, grandkids, whatever, that you would really like people to know about or come on and learn public speaking, call me, 423-0443. I'm always willing to get somebody in. I may not be able to call you right back, as I'm almost a one-man band here and trying to wear a lot of hats. So I will get back to you, I promise, and email, or I'll give you a call. But I'll stop talking, and so that you guys don't turn me off. Thanks again, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media.